A very big thank you for your continued support on these aviation news recaps, and because you've been enjoying it, long may they continue. Today there's coverage on an order for Boeing aircraft, an engine failure, and some A320/A321neo problems. Starting with the latter topic, and that is related to Airbus aircraft with Air New Zealand. And I think you could probably argue that Air New Zealand has been one of the most unluckiest carriers going around in the past 5 to 10 years. The New Zealand flag carrier, as you may recall, back towards the late 2010s, faced issues hitting their Boeing 787s. This was related to the Trent 1000 engines. This forced them to wet lease, and now persistent problems of engines on their aircraft will hurt them into 2024. At least this time, it's not related to the Boeing 787. The issues center around Pratt & Whitney and the maintenance of their geared turbofan engines. Pratt & Whitney has been front and center for the ongoing global engine shortages and crisis, with many customers and thus aircraft families being impacted. Air New Zealand are not the only ones, and certainly may not be hit as hard as some carriers. Over the next 3 years, the forecast sees that over 500 engines will be impacted due to ongoing engine issues. That means hundreds upon hundreds of aircraft. Notably for Air New Zealand though, the concern surrounds their newly delivered Airbus A320neos and A321neo aircraft, which are essential for their day-to-day operations, especially on services through to Pacific destinations and also Australian cities. Air New Zealand says it will be working diligently to limit the overall schedule implications on their customers. However, the likelihood that changes will be made is pretty high, and they're already preparing for this. The flag carrier has 106 aircraft in service, and away from the ATR 72-600, the A320-200 is the most critical engine-powered aircraft measured by active units, with 17 remaining in service. However, these will eventually be replaced by the new engine options. Moving along and over to Boeing, who reported a brand new order for their 737 MAX, and it was actually a sizable one, with Vietnam Airlines ordering 50 units as part of an enhanced relationship between Vietnam and the United States being signed. The deal is worth nearly USD 8 billion at list price value and will substantially aid Vietnam Airlines in future growth. But as always with these types of things, don't believe the list price value is what was actually paid for the aircraft up front, as on multiple occasions and pretty much with every single order, there are ways to reduce that price, whether that be through a relationship with the manufacturer, potentially the amount of units ordered, or a way for Boeing to actually win over said customer. The Vietnamese carrier currently has 92 aircraft in service, with its most significant fleet type when measured by active units being the A321 series. Its A321-200s are actually also the oldest aircraft type when we take a look at the average age, which sits at 11.8 years. The oldest unit is even close to 17 years. Regarding its next generation fleet, while the airline operates the 787-9, 787-10, and over at Airbus, it has A350s and A321neos. The 50 units are for the most popular variant in the 737 MAX, the real middle ground, and that is the 737-8, which will provide what Boeing describes as the best possible flexibility for Vietnam's growing aviation market. Over to an airline partnership, and that is Etihad Airways, announcing its intent alongside the Air France-KLM group to enhance further collaboration opportunities across various business areas. The signing of an MOU, essentially an understanding and pre-agreement, which is still subject to finalization and regulatory approval, will see the expansion of code sharing and interline agreements that first came in 2012. According to the groups, initial steps are well underway, with 40 routes covering multiple corners of the globe available for booking for even as early as this upcoming 2023 winter season, which leads into the first couple of months of next year. The Executive Vice President and Chief Commercial Officer at the Air France and KLM Group said, "I'm delighted to further develop our partnership with Etihad Airways. This 11-year collaboration is now expanding even further as we aim to explore opportunities in maintenance and loyalty, in addition to enhancing our route network for the benefit of our customers from all around the world." And you'll probably be able to tell one of the main takeaways from this, if you're an avid flyer, is the proposition regarding frequent flying Blue and Etihad guest flyers to earn and redeem miles with the three airlines. Terminal co-locations, airport lounge access, ground handling, and much more are all part of the plans to grow together as an enhanced collaboration effort, and certainly it will be exciting to see how this develops once finalization can come through. Shemen Airlines has announced plans to begin flying to Doha in a pretty landmark route development. Shemen says it'll begin by offering a Beijing, Daxing and Doha service from the 20th of October, with the Shemen to Doha service commencing 11 days later on the 31st of October. These flights will be operated by the airline's Boeing 787, and Qatar Airways is set to code-share with Shemen on these services as part of the partnership announcement. If you want to get into the specific variants, well, the Beijing flight will be operated by the 787-9 and the Shemen flight with the smaller capacity 787-8. And on to the final story of today, and that is related to an Airbus A320neo, specifically with Air China, involving a fire that was due to an engine failure. This occurred only a couple of days ago, which broke out while the plane was attempting to land in Singapore. It was deemed a mechanical engine failure, and while a preliminary analysis has only recently taken place, a full investigation will now be underway to better understand if this is a more widespread issue, the exact specifics behind it, and such. There were 146 passengers and 9 crew members on board this A320neo, however they were able to perform a successful evacuation as described by the airline, which is something you always like to see. This Airbus A320neo isn't all that old, coming in at 4.8 years. It is also equipped with Pratt & Whitney engines. Notably, as discussed earlier in this video, Pratt & Whitney has been front and center for continued problems with their supply chain, the ability to regularly maintenance engines, keep up with them, and so much more. And the A320neo is an aircraft that has been affected by this. And that does conclude today's aviation news recap. As I always like to say, if you have any thoughts on the topics covered, and if you did actually make it this far into the video, I really do appreciate the support. You can leave those thoughts down below in the comments. Make sure you're staying tuned for future coverage on the industry, as no doubt these aviation recaps will continue. One of the biggest things I do like about creating this type of content is the ability to travel to all corners of the globe, all in the one video, and therefore include as many airlines that are to your interests as possible. Thanks a lot, as always, for your support. Please do take care and be safe, and I will see you next time.